A little girl who had not spoken a single word in 6 years suddenly reached for the hand of a stranger in the middle of a crowded charity gala. Her identical twin, just as silent, did the same only seconds later. Hundreds of wealthy guests watched in stunned disbelief as the billionaire mother froze in place, unable to understand why her daughters, who trusted no one outside their tiny world, calmly walked toward an ordinary-looking single father wearing faded work boots and an old denim jacket. What no one knew was that the quiet man carried scars from a classified life as a Navy SEAL, and the moment those silent twins chose him would uncover buried pain, impossible courage, and a miracle no amount of money could ever buy. If you believe kindness, forgiveness, hope, and second chances can change lives, please like this video, leave a thoughtful comment, share this story with someone who needs encouragement today, and subscribe to our channel so our community can continue sharing emotional journeys that remind us of the power of compassion. Meredith Sinclair had built one of the largest renewable energy companies in North America. Financial magazines admired her brilliance, business leaders respected her determination, and the world saw her as a woman who had conquered every obstacle. Yet behind every glamorous magazine cover stood a mother carrying a heartbreak she could never escape. Her identical daughters, Eloan and Briar, had not spoken since surviving a devastating boating accident when they were 3 years old. Doctors explained that the girls' silence was not caused by damaged vocal cords but by emotional trauma so deep that it had locked away their voices. They communicated through expressions, gestures, and handwritten notes, but every specialist, therapist, and expensive treatment had failed to bring their words back. Meredith devoted nearly every waking hour outside the office to helping them heal. She hired experts from around the world, built therapy rooms inside her estate, and surrounded her daughters with patience and love. Still, they avoided strangers, hid behind each other in unfamiliar places, and never willingly touched anyone except their mother. The silence inside their home became louder every passing year. Across town, Rowan Mercer lived in a modest little house with his 8-year-old son, Finn. Rowan worked as a landscape designer, creating peaceful gardens for hospitals and schools. Most clients never guessed that before becoming a father, he had spent years serving as a Navy SEAL on dangerous rescue missions around the world. Those experiences had filled him with courage but also left invisible wounds. After losing his wife to a sudden illness, Rowan quietly retired from military life and focused entirely on raising Finn. He never spoke about his service unless absolutely necessary. The medals remained locked inside an old wooden chest in the attic, collecting dust while he chose a quieter life filled with school lunches, homework, and weekend gardening. One bright spring morning, Meredith attended a charity event supporting children's mental health. She reluctantly brought Eloan and Briar, hoping the outdoor environment would feel less overwhelming than another clinic. The girls remained close together, holding each other's hands as musicians played gentle melodies across the sunny gardens. Wealthy donors mingled beneath white tents while photographers captured smiling faces. Rowan attended the same event after volunteering to redesign the charity's healing garden without charging a single dollar. Finn happily carried small flower pots beside him, greeting volunteers with cheerful enthusiasm. Then something extraordinary happened. Eloan suddenly stopped walking. Briar looked toward the same direction. Without hesitation, both girls released each other's hands for the first time in public and quietly walked toward Rowan. Every adult nearby watched in complete silence. Rowan knelt naturally so he wouldn't appear intimidating. He never reached toward the girls. He simply smiled with the calm confidence of someone who had once comforted frightened children rescued from disaster zones. The twins gently placed their small hands inside his. Neither looked frightened. Neither tried to pull away. Meredith felt tears forming before she even realized she was crying. For 6 years, her daughters had never initiated physical contact with any stranger. Not once. Something inside Rowan's peaceful presence had spoken to them without words. News of the unusual moment quietly spread throughout the event. Some guests whispered that perhaps the children recognized kindness more clearly than adults ever could. Meredith approached cautiously, expecting the girls to retreat the moment she came closer, but instead Eloan looked toward her mother with relaxed eyes she had not seen since before the accident. Briar carefully picked a small white flower from a nearby planter and placed it into Rowan's rough hand before smiling faintly. That tiny smile nearly broke Meredith's heart. She invited Rowan and Finn to visit their estate later that week, explaining only that the girls seemed unusually comfortable around him. Rowan politely hesitated, uncomfortable entering the world of billionaires, but Finn reminded him that helping people never depended on their bank accounts. When they arrived several sunny afternoons later, the enormous estate seemed almost unreal compared to Rowan's modest home. Yet he noticed something no architect or interior designer could hide. Despite its beauty, the mansion lacked laughter. Every room echoed with quiet longing. Instead of trying to entertain the twins, Rowan simply spent time planting flowers beside them in the gardens. He let Finn build little wooden birdhouses while Eloan and Briar watched. Eventually the girls began helping without anyone asking. They watered flowers, handed Rowan tools, and carefully painted tiny birds onto the wooden houses. There were no miracle therapies. No dramatic techniques. Only patience. Only consistency. Only safety. Week after week, Meredith watched an impossible transformation unfold. The girls began sleeping peacefully. They smiled more often. They laughed silently through bright expressions. They started drawing colorful pictures instead of dark, storm-filled images that had worried therapists for years. One afternoon, Meredith finally asked Rowan why her daughters trusted him when they trusted no one else. He answered honestly. Years earlier, during one overseas rescue mission, Rowan's SEAL team had saved dozens of frightened children trapped after a devastating earthquake. Many had been too terrified to speak. He learned that broken trust could never be forced back into existence. It had to be patiently invited through quiet consistency, gentle body language, and unconditional calm. He wasn't treating Eloan and Briar like patients. He was simply allowing them to decide when they felt safe. Meredith realized every expensive treatment had focused on making the girls speak. Rowan had focused on making them feel understood. That difference changed everything. Months passed beneath warm sunshine as gardens bloomed around the estate. Finn became like a protective older brother to the twins. Together they planted vegetables, rescued injured birds, and built butterfly habitats. Meredith found herself smiling more than she had in years. Even the household staff noticed that hope had quietly returned. Then another challenge arrived. A ruthless financial rival launched a public campaign questioning Meredith's leadership, causing her company to face enormous pressure. Reporters gathered outside her headquarters. Investors demanded answers. Every news outlet seemed determined to turn temporary uncertainty into permanent scandal. The stress began affecting Meredith at home. The twins noticed. So did Rowan. Rather than offering business advice, Rowan reminded Meredith that storms often make people forget what truly matters. He encouraged her to spend one afternoon away from meetings simply planting flowers with her daughters. She almost refused. Then she remembered 6 years of chasing success while desperately searching for healing. She canceled every appointment. That sunny afternoon became one of the happiest days her family had experienced since before the accident. The girls laughed silently as butterflies landed across fresh lavender blossoms. Finn accidentally splashed everyone while watering tomatoes, leaving all 4 children and adults soaked with laughter under the warm afternoon sun. Meredith realized something priceless. Healing wasn't hiding somewhere inside another medical breakthrough. It had quietly grown inside ordinary moments filled with love. Several weeks later, during a community picnic supporting children's therapy programs, hundreds of families gathered beneath bright blue skies. Rowan volunteered to teach children how to build bird feeders while Meredith helped organize fundraising activities. Everything felt peaceful until a frightened little boy wandered away from the crowd toward a steep riverbank. Parents screamed. Before anyone else reacted, Rowan sprinted forward with remarkable speed. Years of military training returned instantly, though few recognized it. He reached the child just before the little boy slipped down the muddy slope. Rowan secured him safely and calmly carried him back. People applauded. Reporters surrounded him. Someone eventually uncovered his military record. Headlines praised the mysterious landscaper who had once served as an elite Navy SEAL before quietly disappearing from public attention. Rowan disliked the attention. He believed heroes should never chase applause. But Meredith understood something important. The greatest strength he possessed had never been physical courage. It was emotional gentleness. That evening, while everyone gathered beneath the warm golden sunlight still stretching across the park, Eloan slowly walked toward Rowan. Every conversation around them seemed to fade away. She looked into his eyes. Her lips trembled. For 6 years, silence had guarded every feeling trapped inside her heart. Then, softly enough that only nearby people heard, one tiny word escaped. "Dad." The world seemed to stop. Rowan immediately looked toward Meredith rather than claiming the moment for himself. The billionaire mother was crying before she even understood why. Briar squeezed her sister's hand, looked toward Meredith, and whispered another word that no one believed they would ever hear. "Mom." Meredith collapsed to her knees, wrapping both daughters inside the safest embrace she could give. The girls continued crying, not from fear but from release. Years of pain dissolved into sunlight, hope, and tears. Doctors later explained that trauma sometimes healed only after children rediscovered complete emotional safety. There had been no magical cure. Only trust. Only love. Only time. Meredith eventually established a nationwide foundation supporting emotionally traumatized children regardless of their family's income. Instead of building another corporate headquarters, she invested millions creating healing gardens where families could recover together. Rowan became the foundation's director of outdoor recovery programs, combining his knowledge of nature, resilience, and compassionate care. Finn proudly helped mentor younger children, proving that kindness could be taught simply by living it every day. Although Meredith remained one of the wealthiest women in the country, she often said her greatest treasure was not measured by company valuations or investment portfolios. It was hearing her daughters laugh beneath bright afternoon skies while helping others rediscover hope. Rowan finally opened the old wooden chest in his attic and donated many of his military medals to a veterans museum. He kept only one small challenge coin, not because it reminded him of battles he had survived, but because it reminded him that courage comes in many forms. Sometimes courage rescues strangers from danger. Sometimes it patiently waits beside frightened children until they find their voices again. Before we finish this journey, leave a meaningful comment telling us what touched your heart the most. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Remember that even the deepest silence can someday bloom into laughter when people choose compassion over judgment, patience over pressure, and hope over despair. Sometimes the greatest miracle is not finding someone strong enough to rescue us, but finding someone gentle enough to make us believe we were never beyond saving.